Jennifer Jones as our next speaker. She is our keynote today, and my introduction is going to be fairly brief, not nearly as long as Jennifer's accomplishments deserve, so that we have more time to hear from her about herself, her Rotary journey, but also her hopes and dreams for Rotary when she becomes Rotary International's first woman president year after next. She was serving as a Rotary International director when she was selected to be the RI president nominee, and that is long overdue in my estimation. And Jennifer is eminently qualified to lead us regardless of gender, and gender should no longer matter in Rotary. And I know that we're going to accomplish great things during her year. Just one quick comment. Why is the nomination of a woman to be president of RI so important? Well, there are obviously many valid reasons why it's important. But one that seems obvious to me in Rotary right now is that before we can truly move towards greater inclusivity and diversity, we have to fully embrace the many and varied and consistent contributions that so many women have made and will continue to make in our combined service to the world. We have come to realize in these unsettling times that when life presents us with great challenges, those challenges often bring great opportunities. Jennifer can help us identify and utilize those opportunities for the good of all. Her words have already cheered us on. She has boldly stated, when the world stepped down, Rotary stepped up. Without further ado, give it up for our unstoppable Jennifer Jones, coming to us live from Ontario, Canada. Jennifer, you have the stage.
Well, thank you, Governor Dana. It is a privilege and a pleasure to be able to join all of you here today. I'm looking around the room and see some familiar faces, and that's a real pleasure. Rod, Steve, oh gosh, there's a whole bunch. I have to go through all the pages just to see. But anyway, thank you for including me in your district conference. And I know that we have about 25 minutes or so to hang out and to talk. And I know that you've had other programs today. I was just chatting on the phone with Jason Brown a few minutes ago. Isn't he a whole ball of energy? And I hope that there were some great tips that you all feel like you walked away from M&M's Membership Matters. So today I have the opportunity to kind of chit chat a little bit. And one of the things that I would love to be able to do more than anything is share some thoughts with you, but then I'd love to be able to hear from you. And in the time that we have together to be able to answer perhaps some of your questions, some of the thoughts that you have. I know that you're a merged district, and that's got to be, sort of a new dance that you're doing together, figuring out each of your own ways of moving about things, and you're bringing together territory. I know when I was looking at your district website that parts of Kansas, Colorado, Nebraska, Oklahoma, it's a wide swath. And as much as we live in our own countries and have certain ways of seeing things as our own nationalities, there are differences even between our states and our provinces. So I'm sure that it's a nice opportunity for everyone to get to know each other better. Now, one of the things, and I know that Governor Dana just said this, that one of the things I have been saying a lot lately is that when the world stepped down, we stepped up. We stepped up as Rotarians, and we didn't need to tell our members to be people of action. We automatically knew that we were. And I want to take you back to March. And when we first went into lockdown together, when every single human being on the face of the planet faced this exact same pandemic. And we didn't really know what to do, but we knew that we had to stay inside. But we knew as Rotarians that we had to be able to do something. And we did step up. We stepped up in profound ways. within the first couple of days of going into lockdown, we elevated our disaster response fund and said that we need to make sure that we can provide critical funds to the front line. And so the trustees of the foundation, I'm very proud that within a couple of days, we were able to release two, then add an additional $1 million to the disaster response fund. And in unprecedented times, one of the most overused words, I think, now in the history of language, unprecedented, but we were able to put that out into the field for Rotarians to be able to access. And then they went forward, they filed for it, and within a matter of days, literally days, from announcing the funds to applying for grants and getting it onto the front line, that's unheard of. You know what it takes to move something through our organization. Our ability to adapt, one of our areas of priority right now, it rose up and showed us more now than ever that we have the ability to do things quickly, to respond in real time. And so that $3 million went to the front line, like I said, within a matter of days, for PPE, for ventilators, for food scarcity. And, I know that now has amplified and multiplied into more than $29 million that has gone through our Rotary Foundation in global grants and disaster relief grants. That's really amazing. But you know what? I think if you think about it, really, it's probably hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars, because a lot of Rotarians around the world just went and took the funds and put it straight into what needed to be done as people of action. And so, you know what? We really have made a profound difference. And one of the things, even in the midst of this pandemic, there are the ability to sometimes have silver linings. I know that many of us have seen them ourselves, particularly reaching out and taking care of each other, making sure that we're, checking in on family members or club members who I think are family members, making sure people in our community haven't been left behind, and making sure that they have the things that they need. And so, we stepped up in a pretty profound way. But one of the stories that I think is a silver lining in all of this that we should be telling everyone about, and that is the polio infrastructure that we, along with our partners in global polio eradication, were able to create decades ago. And, that was put into place first and foremost to help us tackle polio vaccines and immunizations. But we also know that Polio Plus has allowed us to take care of so much more than that. And so when the world locked down, we shifted from being polio workers, more than 1 million of them in more than 70 centers around the world, into frontline COVID workers. They were able to take over. And, unfortunately, for a relatively short period of time, we had to stop vaccinations. But we didn't stop surveillance and contact tracing. And so that is something that needed to be done not only for COVID, but it remains imperative for polio eradication. And so here we are, on World Polio Day, we put our pennies and our dollars and our nickels and quarters into, raising more than $1.9 billion as an organization. Just as Rotarians, we've raised more than $1.9 billion. And we've been able to harness it through this infrastructure to create something that's so much bigger than even ourselves. And so on World Polio Day, I think that that's worth celebrating, something that we could do that not only is helping with polio, it's helping to shut down COVID. And we know a couple of years ago, it did the same thing with helping us shut down Ebola. So, we may be sitting in our homes, but we're doing big work. We're thinking big and we're dreaming big. That's what Rotarians do. So one of the other really great pieces of news, and forgive me if I'm repeating anything that you've heard, but in August, as most of you likely know, we took Nigeria off of the endemic list, which meant that the entire African continent was declared wild polio virus free. What a celebration to be able to remove an additional country off of the endemic map. And one of the things that came out of that is a really cool little story that I want to tell you. Now, Time Magazine editor-at-large Jeffrey Kluger is a face that may be familiar to some because he's been a champion for our polio eradication initiatives for the past couple of years. He's acted as an MC on our Wild Polio live stream, and he's been involved in our international convention. So a couple of years ago, 3 or 4 or 5 years ago, when we first approached him to be involved with us with this, there was a letter sent to him, and he came back to us saying, "Why on earth would Time or myself want to write about Rotary and health initiatives?" And so we had to educate him. We had to bring him into the loop. And now he's one of our biggest champions. And so much so that in August, when we were declared, when we took Africa off of the endemic list, he put forward the name of one of our Rotarians there, Dr. Tunji Funsho, the chair of the Nigeria Polio Plus Committee, and put his name forward, and he was accepted as one of Time Magazine's 100 most influential people in the world this year. What an incredible opportunity to raise the profile and share the spotlight with all of the great work that we do in our world through the lens of Dr. Funsho. So I think that that's something that we should be sharing with everyone else as well. A couple of years ago, my younger brother, Dave, and we were sitting together, and he was helping me prep for a media interview that I was going to be doing. And it was on the role of civil society and service, what we provide as an organization and as individuals. And as we were chatting, out of his mouth came these words. He said, "In order to live in the kind of society you want, you have to help build it. In order to live in the kind of society you want, you have to help build it." And when he said that, I said to him, I said, "Who said that?" And he said, "Well, I just said that." And I said, "No, who are you quoting?" And he said, "I'm not." And so then we looked it up and realized that he had just come up with that quote. And it's words, I think, quite candidly now that I live by. And I think it's profound because that's what we do. Again, as Rotarians, we know that we want to make the world the kind of world where everyone can thrive and survive and flourish. And that's the kind of world that, today on World Polio Day, I've had a wonderful opportunity to be able to witness in real time what's been going on in every corner of our world, and that we exist without barriers and boundaries. This morning, I first went to Singapore, then Malaysia, Brunei, Taiwan, out to the eastern seaboard of the Atlantic coast of Canada and parts of the United States, and now here joining all of you and hearing all of the stories of what's going on. It's been a pretty cool day and a pretty cool way to celebrate World Polio Day. When I was in Singapore earlier today, there was a Rotarian, and I wrote down a quote that he shared. They had a really cool thing that they did where they challenged each other to walk and count their steps. It was a whole Step Up to End Polio campaign that they started back in August. So they counted their steps, and they also counted their calories and how many pounds they lost during this. And so they were announcing all of the winners of that over the course of the time that we were together. And the winner of the step count was over 2.6 million steps since August. Now, I know that seems like, okay, start doing the math. How on earth do you do that? But if you break it down, it's pretty easy. It's just doing our over 10,000 steps a day. And when you add them up, it starts to hit big numbers. And so one of them was this 72-year-old Rotarian, Wee Lin Tay. And I want to share with you what he said, because I just think this is really cool. He did the walking challenge, and he did achieve more than 1 million steps. He said, "Living here in Singapore for 72 years, and I have discovered the beauty and the serenity of our country through this walking challenge." He said, "I used to travel overseas to find sunsets, and I found some of the best in our own backyard." He said, "Peace comes when we respect each other and our cultures and beliefs, and that we can be part of something big by our walking project." I thought that was pretty cool. I just wanted to share that with you because, again, it's a way that we connect on a day like today. So what do we do next? We know that we're, operating on a Zoom platform, and we've been doing this now for many months. And, our world is still continuing down this path for at least the next several months until we know that we're able to get together back in person again when we have a vaccine that is widely able to be disseminated. And I hope that going forward, we learn from what it is that we've gone through. This has been a historic opportunity for us to understand our ability to adapt. As I said, one of our key priorities in our strategic plan, our ability to adapt. We kind of thought when we were putting forward the four key strategic priorities of expand our reach, increase our impact, enhance our participant engagement, and then increase our ability to adapt, that might have been more of an internal call to action, that it would take us a while because we knew that while we wanted to get to better virtual learning opportunities, that it was going to take time. But then the world stepped down. And within 2 weeks, we all found these virtual means to be able to support one another. We've now seen how training and conferences can be done in a really profound way by being able to, harness the energy of getting together. But as we go forward, we need to, I think, take the best of what we've learned from this and incorporate it back in. I see clubs going forward that are hybrid clubs where, for a couple of meetings in a week, maybe we do get together in person because we need to be. We need to be together in person to be able to do the things that mean the most to us. Things like, service and fellowship. The two reasons research bears that we join and we stay. We need to get our hands into service, getting our hands into something dirty that we can, make a difference. And then we need to be able to sit in fellowship and share time with each other because that's how we get to know each other as friends. And once we have those bonds, it's really kind of hard to walk away from each other because we know we're all in this together. So I see those in-person meetings happening, but I also see 1 or 2 meetings in a month where we maybe have a virtual meeting. The cost resource allocation and the time allocation has been really something that I think we've walked away learning that, we don't have to, I didn't have to get onto an airplane today to come and visit you. You didn't have to get into a car to drive across the state or across your city in order to be able to attend an event or a meeting. Of course, we want to be able to support the lovely restaurants and meeting places where we all have always convened, and we want to make sure that we support them. But we can always bring this technology even into those venues. So we can even have meetings where sometimes some people are there and some people are calling in. And the world is your oyster in terms of the kinds of speakers that you have access to. That is a really profound opportunity, I think, for all of us, and one that we need to harness as we come out of this global pandemic together. So let me stop talking for a few minutes. I know we've got 10 or 15 minutes left, and I'd love to be able to get into a dialogue with some of you on the call. So if you have questions, by all means, you could always put them in the chat room. But if Dana, do you want to lead us through and see if there's any questions? Should I turn it back to you or just let people unmute?
Jennifer, I think that Fred is monitoring the questions, Fred Heismeyer. So Fred, do we have anything at this point?
We do not. But one of the questions I might ask you, Jennifer, is how do you see Rotary impacting not only the world as we do, but those micro little communities that we all belong to on a day-to-day basis? Rotary sometimes gets lost in that vastness of things that are happening in our communities. Does that make sense?
When you say micro, do you mean like our own clubs?
No, a little bit more broad than that. Our micro communities, meaning perhaps the community we live in, but also perhaps the smaller communities that we belong to, such as a church, such as other groups. How does Rotary connect in that world, in those worlds?
Well, one of the things, and it's a really interesting question, Fred, and if I'm starting down the path in a wrong direction, bring me back around if I've misinterpreted. But I think one of the things that we need to be better at if I can be completely blunt, is, you know, we have all of these incredibly wonderful things that happen. You know, I know that there's many of you here who have been part of different Rotary International committees or even district committees, and we come up with all these great ideas and all these ways of connecting and making things better and new projects and programs and different things like this. And some of the time, the biggest problem I think that we have is that that information doesn't get to the club level. And, you know, we have these pretty shiny things, all these new things, but if you ask a Rotary Club member anywhere in, you know, any XYZ city, if they've ever heard about it, they're likely to say no. And so as we get that information and we find ways to trickle it down into our clubs in a more effective manner, I think that is going to bear fruit. And, you know, when we have members who are hearing about the things that we do and it creates point of pride, it builds us into a stronger organization. And so, you know, we bring leaders in and we make them better leaders. That's what we do. And so when we make, you know, our members, when we empower our members to be stronger leaders, that then is something that has a residual effect that can go into these micro areas I think that you're talking about. You know, we become then leaders in, you know, our place of worship. We become leaders in our community boards. We become leaders, you know, at the local or regional or even national level within our states or our provinces, because we have been cultivated with skill development that we get out of being in our Rotary clubs. And if you think about what the value proposition of membership is, and I think this is something we all need to give a lot of serious thought to, you know, what is the value? Because if people see value, they won't walk away, they'll stay. The value, in my opinion, is skill development. You know, I can say, and I know that many of you would agree, I know I'm a better public speaker, I'm a better event planner, I'm a better board member, I'm better at governance, I'm better at finances, even though my husband would probably argue on that one. But we're better at, you know, so many things because of the opportunities that have been afforded us in our Rotary experience. And so I think that those skills then translate to making our community and our world that much stronger. Fred, did I hit on what you were kind of getting at?
Excellent. Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank
Okay.
you. We
Fred,
do have a couple of other questions. Rita Williams asks you to tell us a little bit more about your history in Rotary and your history with your local club.
Thank you, Rita. Nice to see you. So I joined in 1997, and I had started my own company at that time. I own a television production company, media production company. Turned 25 years old this year, which seems virtually impossible because I still think sometimes, and I'm sure this resonates with many of you, I still feel like I'm 25. How do I have a company that's 25? And so at the time, our local cable manager, Ross Milne, he asked me if I would like to come to a Rotary meeting. Now, I had been to Rotary meetings prior to that, back in 1987, 86, actually even before that. And that was because I was a young reporter and I was sent to cover Rotary Club meetings before, as we know now, just by the dates that I've mentioned to you, before women were permitted to join our great organization. And I remember going and covering these meetings and you know, these, you know, all of these incredible businessmen in our community and, you know, leaders coming in. And I remember being very intimidated by the experience. And, you know, it's kind of funny because now those guys are some of my dearest friends. And I've told them on occasion, you know, y'all scared the bejesus out of me in the very beginning. I didn't know what to expect or anticipate, but, you know, that was my first exposure. But when I went into this meeting that Ross had invited me to, the club that I belong to still to this day, I found that I felt like I arrived home. And my club is, well, it now skews more female than male, but at that time it was about 50-50. And I don't know, I recognized some folks and, you know, met some new people. And I really thought it was a great place to be able to develop and to make friends. And I fell in love with it. You know, I guess, when I think of my own journey, my mom and dad, they really empowered my two brothers and I to dream. They never told us we weren't able to do anything, that anything was possible, anything was within our reach. And, consequently, I spent my childhood deliriously happy doing all kinds of crazy things like, organizing a, a a carnival on my, in my backyard for muscular dystrophy, or going door to door to collect money for UNICEF in those little orange boxes, if anybody remembers those, where we would hand them over, or money for Easter sales or things like that. And so, I fell in love with service. I joined Brownies and Girl Guides. We call it that in Canada. I know you call it Girl Scouts. But if you ask a room full of people, how many have come up through the scouting movement? If you ask a room full of Rotarians, the vast majority will put up their hands. And that's because we were exposed to something at an early age where, it became part of our DNA. And so anyway, I was asked very quickly to become club president. And I said, not for 5 years. I wanted to wait until I felt like I really understood our organization. And then from there, I did wait that 5-year window, and I went on to serve as our district's first female district governor in 2007, 2008. And at that time, I was also asked to sit on Rotary's International Communications Committee. And from there, that really ignited a spark in me of understanding and seeing. I had done an international service project where my husband and we went and lived in the Amazon in Brazil for 5 weeks doing international service. And as soon as I caught that bug of what I could see was so much larger, not that I want to diminish from the club experience, because that's where Rotary happens, at the club. But it afforded and opened doors, opened opportunities, as Holger would tell us, to be able to see so much more than what I thought was even possible. And so that then took me, opened up the other opportunities to be able to say, I'm interested in serving on the international board. And then, recently to saying, I'd like to put my hat into the ring to lead our organization. And I hope that that is a signal of positive change, and that it is an opportunity to perhaps shine a light on demographics that we've been looking to grow very seriously over the past couple of years. We've placed a very concerted effort on trying to bring more women in and members under the age of 40. And, I think that, quite candidly, until they were able to see themselves reflected in authentic leadership, it maybe holds us back a little bit. And so I'm hoping that this is going to empower us to see that, maybe there's younger men and women who are looking at our organization and want to see, is there an opportunity for me to lead? We just last week had the final election for the board that will sit with me. And one of the directors, Drew Kessler, he is out of the Eastern Seaboard. He is 39 years old with 5 kids. That's an incredible change from the dynamic that we have seen when 2 years ago we had an all-male board. Now, please, I don't want to go down the road of male versus female. I certainly believe that we have an opportunity to cultivate opportunities for all members of our organization. And I am on a platform of diverse perspective. And I really believe that that's the most important thing that we can do, is raise up our conversations, so that we know that because we see things from different diverse perspectives, that we are able to solve the world's most pressing challenges that way, because we don't all look at it the same way. And so it really is a balancing act. And I think that just from a business case, if we look at bringing women into Rotary, it really is a market share that we just need to increase. If this was a business model, we'd say, look at how underrepresented we are, and why aren't we going after that? So there you go.
We are unfortunately out of time, but I will tell you it's like every speaker, it's a little slow getting questions, but then all of a sudden they blow up on us, right? There are a number of questions that have been answered by you in one way or another. But I would like to give you, before I turn it back over to Dana to thank you, but would like to give you one opportunity to say something to all of us that you've not said yet.
Well, thanks, Fred. I guess, I just want to end by saying thank you. Thank you to each and every one of you for making Rotary a priority and for making it something that on, you know, I'm not sure if we're in the same time zone. It's 2:30 here in the afternoon. To me, you're 3:30, right? Or 4:30, 1:30. You know, on a Saturday afternoon that you've decided to come together to learn from each other, to hear things, to hear success stories, to hopefully be inspired and, you know, build your resolve to helping to build our organization and take great steps forward. So thank you sincerely for being leaders in our organization and for everything that you've done and everything that you will do. And I hope more than ever that there's an opportunity sometime in the very near future where we get to actually spend time in person. But until that time, I'm glad we got to spend this time together.
Lots of thanks coming your way. Please read the chat. Dana, I'm going to turn it back over to you.
Jennifer, thank you so much for being with us. And we look forward to you leading us, and we'll try to keep up.
Well, take care, everybody, and enjoy the rest of your day.
But before you leave, we want to donate $500 to Polio Plus in your honor.
Woo!
That'll be another $3,000 with the 6-to-1 match that can help with Polio Plus. So we're working to try to.
I'm gonna dance. I'm gonna dance in my End Polio Now shoes for that.
Great.
We're working in the district.
Hey, good Fred.
With matches to try to get up to 1.6, 1.8 million. So we're working hard on it.
Woohoo! Way to go, guys. Thank you.
Thank
Good,
you.
thank you.